Okay, so in this workshop, we're getting a little bit technical. We're going to be talking about how to use our CDP. Now, if you don't know what a CDP is, essentially it stands for Customer Data Platform. And this is essentially what enterprise solutions and enterprise, we're talking Fortune 500s will use to be able to manipulate and sync their data. I'll show you just let me share the whiteboard here. Okay. So essentially what a CDP does is, let's say you build an audience and it's 1 million people, right? Like it is so hard to segment that. What are you going to do? You're going to download it. You can't upload it to Sheets. If you use it through a webhook, you have to, adjust the data row by row. It's really hard because essentially what you're doing is you're trying to manipulate data and transform it by just moving it around in Sheets or through an API or something. So what a CDP does is we have our data source here. So we have our Audience Lab source. And then we have our CDP here. And then you have all your destinations here. Okay. Now, what's cool is the CDP, it acts as if everyone here uses high level, right? Everyone here uses Go High Level. I'm assuming so. I'm going to assume, yep. Okay, so in Go High Level, you host your contacts, and then you can create these things called smart lists. Does everyone know what a smart list is? When you create like a dynamic logic and you have filters so that anytime new leads added, it goes through. Yep. Okay, cool. So this is like that, but on a much larger scale where you can process hundreds and thousands, possibly even millions of leads every single day. So what essentially you have is the data comes through your Audience Lab. You can sync it so that it's every 24 hours or whatever. And then it goes through here. And here you can manipulate the data however you want. You can send it to Facebook. You can send it to Google Sheets. We have Google Ads coming. You can send it to Klaviyo. You can push it through via an API. And you can do all of this simultaneously. You can manipulate the data every single time because Facebook, it might need to be built a certain way. Google Sheets might need to be a certain way and so forth. So today we're going to be talking about Facebook and how to get the highest match rate possible. Okay, so I've mentioned this a few times, but let's say for an example that I export a list out of Audience Lab and it's 10,000 people. Okay, so if you upload this list, it depends on like when you upload it. Like we used to see really high match rates just from the SHA, but now like just from the SHA and missing out on data, like you might see a lower match rate. It just depends. But let's say you upload it and for some reason it's around, let's say 45%. You should get a lot higher than that, but let's say it's 45%. Okay. So you've got 10,000 people, you upload it 45%. So really you've got 4,500 people that you can target. Okay. That Facebook's actually able to target. Now, the reason being is because Facebook and Google and all these other platforms, they only allocate a certain amount of spaces that you can have to put in data. So they allow you to have 2 emails and they allow you to have 2 phone numbers. Okay. Everyone clear on that? How you can use you can use 2 emails and 2 phone numbers. You have 4 slots that you can use. And then you have, first name, last name, but you only get 1 slot of those. But this is like the main one is the emails and the phone numbers. And I think zip codes as well. So everyone clear on that? You get 2 emails, 2 phone numbers. If you got to upload a custom audience in Facebook, that's what you'll see. Okay. Now, what if someone has multiple emails? What if someone has 5 emails? You basically have 2 out of 5 chance of getting it right. Okay. So what we've found is that from this list of 10,000 people, you actually have, you've got, 10,000 people times 2 emails. You've got 10,000 people times maybe 3 phone numbers. You've got 10,000 people times 2 addresses. And before you know it, this list of 10,000 people is actually more like 100,000 rows of data, because you have all these different contact points, and every single row needs to be a unique line of data for the different emails somebody has. Is that clear for everybody? That essentially, like, your list of 10,000, really, the way to get the ultimate match rate in Facebook is to create a new row of data for every single email, and you might have a list of 100,000 after that. Give me a yes, give me a no, because I want to make sure everybody follows this. And if not, we can come back. Yep, cool. All right, awesome. So that's what a CDP does, okay? So this is our CDP. We call it Audience Sync. And what it does is it uses something called reverse ETL. Reverse ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. And essentially what it does is, instead of just sending data, so instead of just having, so you have, you've got your data where you got A, and then you got B, and you're just sending data across, and it's a one-way transaction. What ETL does is you have A to B, but it's this continuous almost transaction between the two, because the data is actually never leaving A, and it's being transformed as it sends to B. And this all happens real time. Okay, so basically ETL is how bigger companies will manipulate data, right? And they do this through something in a CDP. Now, the bigger companies, like if you were to pick out any of like the Fortune 500 companies and how they would be activating their data, they would be using tools like, and these are expensive tools. You've got like Segment by Twilio. You've got Airbyte. You've got High Touch. What else? RudderStack. And these are expensive. They're very pricey. Okay. So what we've done is we've built a custom CDP just for Audience Lab users to allow you guys to have the same functionality of all these big ones that use the same infrastructure, but for Audience Lab data. So that's like the main thing there. So inside the CDP, will this be automatically done when seeing it? Yeah, I'll show you exactly how to use it. So inside the CDP, we've got sources, destinations, models, and syncs. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, if you're inside of V3, you'll notice we have a different layout here. So let's say we've got, let's grab my, what does I have in here? I got that one. I'll use that one now. So that was, I think it was here. Can't find it. It was somewhere here. I've got a ton of audiences. Anyway, you build an audience inside of here. And then what you do is, when you go to create a source inside your CDP, you'll notice there is audience source connector. And then you'll see there is user ID and audience ID. So what you can do is you can go into your CDP, you go into your Audience Lab, and when you hit the download icon, you'll notice you have audience ID and account ID. Now, real quick, let's say I build an audience Shopify intent and I want this to refresh every single day because I'm going to use it in my CDP. I'm going to use it in the API in a ton of different ways. So I just click on this and I go to every day, every 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days. I do every day. And then I do update. And now it's going to push the data through every single day. You can see here, this one that I'm testing, it produces a new file every single day, right? So what you'll do is you'll take that and you'll grab the audience ID and the account ID and you'll put them in here. So you have your user ID and your audience ID. So I've already got a source that I created, which is here. Now, once it's inside the source, it's going to pull in the latest file every single day, every single 3 days, whatever cadence you set up inside of Audience Lab V3. So what you can then do is you can send it to all these different destinations. So we've got about, I mean, this is just the first batch of destinations. We've got a ton coming. The biggest one's the Facebook custom audience, and I'll show you guys how you can leverage that. Google Sheets, Klaviyo, we're about to push out the high level one. We've got Google Ads. It's all inside of here. And honestly, if you have something that we don't have, you can just use a HTTP and you can just send the data out through here, okay? Now, all of these destinations, if we were just to use a simple API, you're not going to get the absolute best result because you have to manipulate the data in different ways. High level's not in yet. It will be. But if you want to get started on high level right away, you can just use the HTTP, by the way. So that's where we get into what's called models. So models essentially is a way that we can manipulate the data to use however we want. So I'll give you guys an example. Let's say we've got a list of 200,000 people that updates every single 24 hours, and it goes into Facebook. Okay. Now I want this to match the highest way possible. So what I need to do is this 200,000 people, I need to take this, I need to rebuild the table so that I have every single email in one column, and I have every single phone number in another column. Okay, so we might have, I mean, just in our emails alone, we have 5 different emails. So we have business email, personal email, programmatic email, business programmatic email. We have the skip trace email. There's a bunch of different emails, same with phone number. So essentially what I would need to do is if I want to get the highest match rate on Facebook and I was to do this manually, I'd have to download the 200,000 list. I'd have to sort all the emails in one column and all the phone numbers in another column. Because then what would happen is I would end up giving Facebook a list of probably, let's say it's 1 million rows of data, but every single unique row is the different email for the person. So it might be repeating the same person 100 times, but they have a different email each time. Does that make sense? Is everyone still following me on there? And you can say it doesn't, and I can go back and explain, but it's all right. Cool. All right. So that's what I'd have to do manually. Everyone understands that? Whereas with the CDP, I can do this in minutes. Okay. So all I need to do is come into here and I'm going to use an enhanced Facebook match model. Now, this is just a custom SQL query. You can copy and paste this. I've already put it inside of here. If you go to docs.audiencelab.io and you go to define a model, there's actually models that we've created in here for you guys to do all this. You can do any model you can think of. You can manipulate the data however you want. You can only pull unique records. When we get into custom scoring, you can only pull unique scores and match them with unique records. Really, like I just generated these in ChatGPT and they work absolutely fantastic. So it's not hard to do this, but we have templates that we're putting in so you don't have to write any SQL. But for those that are a bit more advanced, I would encourage you just to learn a little bit about this and just understand these templates. These are all you really need to know. So let's say the Facebook template, we're going to use that. So, sorry, it's this one here. So we're going to be using the Facebook template. And what this is going to do is it's going to produce 1 row per email phone combination, and it's going to explode all the values of all the emails, all the phone numbers into 2 rows. We have primary email and primary phone number. This is going to allow us to give Facebook every single email and every single phone number that exists for one person. Okay. So all I need to do is put that in here. And then I run the query. And what it's going to do is it's rebuilding the entire table for me. It's only going to show me like the first 100 rows or whatever, but it's rebuilding the whole 200,000 rows of data. And then it's going to act as a dynamic model that I can use whenever I want. What's that? Okay. So can everyone see my screen here? So look at this. So we've got Alexandra. Okay. So look how many emails Alexandra has. She's got 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to count these. Let's call it like 20 emails, or let's call it 20 emails, right? So you got Alexandra here. Now, if I was to upload just this row of data to Facebook, Facebook would just choose one of these. Does everyone understand? Facebook would only choose one of these emails. Whereas through this query, what I'm doing is I've repeated her dozens of times, but see how there's a unique email every single time. So Alexandra Autodesk, here, I've got every single email combination to match her in every single way. See? Now I've done this for, done this for 200,000 people. So it's probably like 1 million records. Somebody said, I thought it would only pull up the SHA-256. SHA-256 is just an encrypted email. That's all it is. So what this CDP does is as you send the data to Facebook, it encrypts it for you. So you can have the raw data that you can mess around with. But then when you send it to Facebook or any of these platforms, it hashes it for you. Okay. So this is going to get me the highest possible match rate imaginable. All right. So all I need to do now is I'll save this. I'll create a sync. Oh, hang on. Where are we? I'll use my model. And now what I can do is I can get my audience, incremental, and then it should populate here. 1 second. Might have to refresh that. It will come into here. Where is it? 1 second. I think my computer's a bit slow. Oh, hang on. Cursor field, incremental. It should come in here. You might have to refresh it or something, but it'll come into here. There we go. It just took a minute. So essentially, you have what's called primary email. So this is every single email combination for a person. So it's combined. There's probably 5 different email types in here, and there's probably 1 million emails that we've compiled just through that query. So now I go to primary email, and I match that to email. And that's going to get every single email combo. Come here. I'm going to match primary phone to phone. And now I can add in my other parameters, but I'm essentially getting every single possible combination of that person. And then I'm matching it to Facebook. So Facebook takes in all that data, which is insanely powerful because this is just for Facebook. I can use this for anything, right? Let's say Google, I can do a similar thing. I can use the same Facebook model that I used. I can use that same model and I can use it for Google. I could do that for Sheets if I really wanted to, which would be weird, but I can still do that. You can really do anything by leveraging models inside a CDP. So this is our Facebook expansion boost. And this is something where it's like, if you were to use, I think it's Hightouch. So Hightouch, if you were to use this enterprise solution, they have something called match boosting. And this is essentially just that. It's just match boosting, but it's just a manual way to do it. And it's just a simple copy and paste thing you just put in here, paste that into models, and it will rebuild the table for you. Now we're going to pump out a bunch of these, and then we'll create these as templates. So you can just click a drop down, but it essentially allows you to manipulate the data, and it doesn't matter how big the data is because it uses reverse ETL. Now, somebody said, how does this compare to BoostBase, Make, things like that? So with Make, let's say I wanted to send 1 million emails through Make, right, to somewhere. Okay, so basically I have my Make, BoostBase, whatever. Let's say I've got my data here and I want to send it to Facebook and I want to send it via Make. So data via Make to Facebook. So first of all, I cannot change the structure of the data. And if I did, it would be some very complex thing that would use up, like it'd be insanely expensive. It would be extremely expensive to do. Likely won't handle the workload. And it's just overall not designed for large amounts of data. Right? If I was to do what I just did here inside of models, and I was to do that and try to do that inside of Make, I think it'd be impossible. I don't think there's any way you'd be able to do it. I don't know how you'd be able to build a table using anything other than reverse ETL, because what this does is instead of, if you've got data to Facebook, instead of just sending it so it goes one way, we're essentially communicating so that we're sending the data back and forth and we're recreating the table just like so. And we can do that with large amounts of data. So what's cool about this is I can take this model, which is my Facebook enhanced match model. I can create a sync, but it connects to my source. So it connects to here, and this updates every 24 hours. So every 24 hours, the data goes through into my sources, goes through real time, matches on the model, rebuilds the entire table, syncs it to my Facebook, and gets the highest match rate possible. And that's one source and one sync. You can do that with anything. You can sync it anywhere you want, whether it's an integration that we put in or whether you use like a HTTP model. How do you send the same audience data to multiple high-level accounts? So we don't have a high-level integration in here yet because we're just configuring it with their API. Because the way they do it's a little bit silly. It's kind of like it has you like upload a CSV, but we're working with their dev team to make it so we can have a batch API. But if you wanted to do this for high level, you could, well, for one, you wouldn't have to rebuild the whole table. So your model would be pretty simple. You would just need to use, let's say for an example, you wanted to make sure you only had a unique row of data. You could just use this. This basically makes it so that you only return one record for that person. So you can make sure you just have no duplicates or anything like that and clean the data up that way. You don't really need to do that for high level for a CRM. And then you could just use the HTTP temporarily for now, which if you just grab the high level endpoint, whack that in here, and then you just map your headers here, UK here, continue, and then it'll start sending that data through. You can do the same thing instantly. I mean, anything fits into the HTTP model. It's the same way as Make, but we're rolling out the integrations for this over the coming days. The Facebook integration, I will say, this one here, custom audience. Right now, if I go here and I go to custom audience, I need an access token, add account ID, and audience ID. The access token, it's pretty hard to get in terms of how you work inside of Facebook. You got to have like a developer account, all this other stuff, and it keeps expiring. So what we've done is we've created an authentication gateway, so you don't have to do any of this. We're about to push it live this morning, but I didn't want to have any issues while I was showing you guys this, so I held it off until after the workshop, and then I'll record a video and show you guys how to actually authenticate your Facebook. It's just a few clicks, and then you can start sending the data through. Now, I expect that this will make it so that you get the highest match rate possible. So let's say, for an example, you're doing something for a local business, or you're doing something that has a very small audience where it's like 10,000 businesses. Okay, so you can take that 10,000 businesses. You can use a custom model in here to be able to rebuild the table where it's 10,000 businesses that is now converted into 100,000 points of data, one unique row per person, and then you can sync that to Facebook, and that will get you the highest match rate possible on those people. Yeah. So you could do the same audience and you could use multiple models, and then you can sync it to multiple different ad accounts. So let's say you have an audience here and it's just called roofing, right? And it's for all your roofing clients. You might have 10 different roofing clients. One client is through Facebook ads. One client, they want it in a Google Sheet. One client, they only want valid emails and they want those filtered out. One client, they want only the SkipTrace wireless number. You can just create any model like that and segment it, so it syncs all the data real time. If all 10 want Facebook though, yeah, I mean, you can have BoostSpace is just different. So BoostSpace is for small amounts of data. If you try to do anything over, let's say 1,000 records per day through BoostSpace, you're going to have probably a rough time because it's still sending data. It doesn't use reverse ETL. This is like an enterprise data solution that you guys can work with large amounts of data without having to like download it in spreadsheets or do anything like that. How to use with a SuperPixel. So SuperPixel, we haven't added this in yet because we're going to push in a webhook functionality for here. The thing about SuperPixel though is you don't really need, I mean, it's still robust. It's still like one by one. So with your SuperPixel, when you set it up and you connect a webhook, it's still like real time where it's like when somebody gets matched, it sends the data across. So you might have, I guess if you have large amounts of volume and you want to push that through here, we could do that. So yeah, we could just set up a sync and just do it that way. The only thing is you would need to just have it so, like if I do this and I create the sync, where's my edit? Hang on. If I create a sync in here, it would just need to make sure that it checks the pixel routinely. So yeah, you could do the pixel and it could just do every minute, could do every second. So yeah, you could definitely do it pixel. We'll just have to create a webhook inside of here. We do have a V3 pixel coming out, which is a little bit different in terms of how we match data. It's a lot of improvements. We have actual events that we're tying to what people do on the website. And that's going to be out. I don't want to give an exact date for that because we're still testing it, but yeah, that's gonna be cool. There's no webhook in here yet. There's HTTP model endpoint that you could use, but ideally with the SuperPixel, we want to be able to just do it through the audience source connector. Well, the first Audience Lab dashboard still exists alongside this CDP. So at the moment, you guys have access to app.audiencelab.io and you have access to build.audiencelab.io. This is our V3. You can still access everything in the current Audience Lab, which is app, but eventually we're going to start moving everything over on V3. The reason why we have it separate platforms like this is because in our new V3, we're going to be putting in the enhanced V3 behavioral model. And that is, we're going from 60 billion behaviors per week to 250 billion behaviors per week. So it's a big, big increase. And what's also coming in for our V3 inside of here, yeah, is the strength scores of intent, which I'll do a whole separate workshop on that. I'll do that next week actually, because that's when it'll be coming out. I believe we're looking at next week as the rollout, unless there's any issues. I mean, sometimes it can be pushed a week, but what we're going to do is, so many people just said they want access, where instead of us testing it for 3 weeks, we're like, all right, we'll put it out and we'll put it in beta. And if you guys find any issues, just let us know and we'll fix it right away. But that is live on our data set now. We've been testing it. It works really, really well. And that score system will allow you to really map out the whole spectrum of the intent of your lead. All right, any other questions? Cool. All right, before we get off topic, does everybody understand the power of a CDP? I want you guys to really grasp this. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. All right, awesome. Well, if you want to go sign up for the CDP, just go to docs.audiencelab. Hang on. And I'll just drop this in here. It's technically it's free for anyone to sign up. The only thing is you have to have an Audience Hub account to use Audience Hub data. I mean, we've built it as like its own solution. It does give lender history, yes. That was for Jose Rivera. Cool. All right. Damn, I knocked through that pretty quick. That was awesome. All right. Let me just stop recording here.